Me getting arrested in Mexico, becoming an international criminal, was literally just another day in my life. The last 2 times I was arrested. February 2020, I was arrested by the Marines and the National Guard here in Mexico. We're gonna do a little story time. How the fuck I got there, what I was doing there, and how I ended up in jail in Cancun for a few days. My life was literally an episode of Locked Up Abroad. Is that show still around? That was a good show. We back, bitches. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. Who the hell am I? I'm Angie, and I was a dope fiend for almost 20 years of my life. And I have jails, hospitals, so many detoxes, overdoses, homelessness. I accumulated over a 10-page criminal record. I'm a felon, all the things. And now I'm in my 5th year in recovery, which is crazy. And I say this all the time, but I just cannot express how fucking bananas it is that I'm in my 5th year. November 9th, this year will be 5 years. Such a trip. So let's get into it. I got my coffee. Grab a tea, grab a snack, grab your dog, grab a pillow, whatever. Grab your earbuds, turn the volume up because we're doing a story time. October 2018 is when I first came to Mexico on was supposed to be a 10-day vacation, but it really wasn't a vacation. It was literally to kick dope. A friend of mine had come into like $2,000. We're not talking about a lot of money here. If we stayed in Boston, we knew that $2,000 was going to be gone within a couple days. We were like, you know what? Let's fucking book a trip. Let's go to Mexico. Let's go somewhere and kick and detox ourselves. Now, mind you, I don't recommend doing this, kicking on your own. I was kind of an expert at that point. I've been to so many countless, I can't even count how many detoxes I've been to. My habits were always so big that I just stayed sick. Like there was no protocol that would make me feel good enough to stay at a detox. I always left them AMA. Needless to say, I have experienced and had my fair share of at-home detoxes. So we hopped on a plane, came down to Mexico, and we were supposed to just be in Cancun. We didn't know where we were staying. We were literally going to go hotel hopping and knock on the door. Well, ask hotels and be like, we need, a room. Ended up on this island completely by accident. Met some dude on the plane who was like, oh, have you ever heard of this place? And we were like, no, why not? Let's go. We got nowhere else to go. Got a room and started to detox. My habit was so big that literally my friend thought I was dying. Like literally was like knocked out from meds, wouldn't wake up, like thought I was like, it was a brutal detox. After a few days, starting to feel better, I started to get out of the room, started going to the beach, started talking to people, meeting people. I fell in love with this island. And at the time, I was terrified. I was terrified of going back to Boston because it wasn't until being here where I truly realized or even started thinking about a life without dope. Being where I was in my life of a box, of routine, of being a dope fiend and junkie life for so long, I didn't think I had a future without heroin. Like I didn't see one. I didn't see a future for me. I didn't know if I had one. I never thought about it. But as soon as I came here, that's when I first started to realize that maybe, just maybe, I'd be able to live without dope. And just maybe I might be able to actually get my shit together. I was, I think, 38 at the time, 38 or 39 in 2018. That first 10 days came and went so fast, and I was terrified of going back to Boston. So I extended my stay for another few weeks. I was getting all of these signs. If you know my story, you know that I really found my spirituality in my recovery. But even back then, I had always believed that everything happens for a reason and signs and synchronicities. I just didn't really know it at the time. But I was getting these signs from the universe. Like I'd be out eating lunch with somebody, and I remember looking up and randomly seeing an AA sign, like in the middle of a tiny island in Mexico. I was like, okay, that's random. And then my flight was canceled the last day I was supposed to fly back to Boston. I was just getting all of these signs. It was like less than half price to live here. I envisioned myself, I can get a job waiting tables. I started to believe that it was possible that I could like work and be self-sufficient and actually support myself. I started to really think that maybe I could build a life here with no real plan, just to get my shit together until I could or felt okay enough to return to Boston. I think a month, 2 months maybe went by. And I met this kid who was also from the New England area in the States. He said to me one day, I used to work for the Cartel selling shit. If you want, I could ask him, and if you want to sell stuff, let me know. I was like, immediately yes. I didn't even think twice about it. I knew how to do that. I knew how to sell drugs. That was like nothing new to me. I was like, yes, of course I can do that. After all, how the fuck was I gonna get my shit together and make money and be able to support myself if I didn't have a job? Like, of course, I'll take the job. So he made a phone call. I took a picture of my ID, my license. He sent it to the boss. Before you knew it, I was out selling drugs every night on the street to tourists and to locals, and mostly just coke and weed. And I fucking loved it, to be honest. I was out, I was socializing, I was hanging out with people, I was meeting new people. I would literally be out every single night from like 8 at night till 5 in the morning. Every single night working, making money. I was making good money. I was a white girl. I was getting good business. I was easily selling to tourists, making good money. It was like a win-win. That's how I ended up working for the cartel. And on, I just continued working directly for the big boss. And we became actually pretty good friends. He was literally the only person that I talked to on a daily basis. He was my age, really chill, really cool, really down to earth. Now, mind you, I spent 17 years getting arrested, in and out of jails, detoxes. Like, I'm a felon. I have all the experience in legal shit, like, and drugs and drug dealers and all the things. I know that drug addicts and drug dealers, I know they're not bad people. Don't piss him off. Don't owe him money, because then he's not a nice guy. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't all fucking butterflies and rainbows. Working for the cartel, I've been held at, gunpoint in a bar bathroom with a gun to my head, being threatened. I've been drugged. I've had a lot of things happen to me. So that's what I did. That's what I continued to do. And I started making them a lot of money. So they liked me in return, of course. The competing groups on the island, none of them liked me. They're like, who is this white girl? Who is this gringo showing up thinking that she can do what we do? She's just a white girl from the States. She's just a tourist, blah, blah, blah. So I dealt with a lot of shit, especially in the beginning. You have no idea by really looking at me, like, where I come from. I don't know if it's just me or if it's like a drug addict thing, but I literally just have no fear of death. Like, I have no fear, like, of any of that shit. It's weird. People would think I was crazy because, like, in the middle of, gunshots going out, I'd be like, running on the street going like, oh, are you okay? While people were like in the bars hiding with their heads covered, I was like out in the street running to see if the person was all right. So fast forward to the end of 2019, and both of my parents died within 3 months of each other. Soon thereafter is when I started to spiral. And quarantine, or COVID, just started to creep up here in Mexico, and quarantine started to hit in like March 2020, around there. I was like still in shock and denial about both of my parents dying. I was continuing to work, continuing to be out as if nothing was happening. On this one day in particular, I remember I was looking for a new apartment, and this kid that I worked with was also looking, and we were like, oh, let's get a place together. I was meeting him down the street so we could go look at the apartment together. And as we're crossing the street, we see a big truck, two huge trucks of National Guard and the Marines. They patrol the streets. So 2 huge truck fulls. They usually drive around, especially during high season. A bunch of them in the back standing up, a few of them in the front. I didn't have much on me at the time. I think I had like some Coke bags, some empty bags. He had like 200 grams of weed on him. He's like, here, hold my hand. Maybe we'll look like we're tourists. So we started holding, so I held his hand. We crossed the street. Next thing you know, we're walking up this side street, and I hear doors slam. I didn't want to look behind me, but I had to look behind me, and there's like 10 or 12 or 14, I don't know, National Guard Marines walking towards us. And they're like, excuse me, they catch up to us. And I play stupid. Like, I'm just a tourist. I don't know how to speak Spanish. I don't understand anything that you're saying. I only speak English. I don't know what's going on. All the tourist things, right? One of the officers looked at another one, and he was like, flagged over for somebody to come over. And sure as shit, they had an English speaking officer with them. And in that moment, I knew I was fucked, because I was like, why else would you have an English speaking officer? The only reason you would have an English speaking officer is if you're looking for an English speaking person. Come to find out, they had been looking for me. Somebody snitched on me, told them who I was, blah, blah, blah. The guy, he kept saying to me, you're selling drugs, you're selling drugs, you're selling drugs. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a tourist. So they put us in handcuffs, they put us in the back of this pickup truck, take us to the boat, get in a boat, cross the ocean to Cancun. Once we get into Cancun, they put me in another pickup truck in the back of the pickup truck, handcuffed. It starts pouring rain. I'm in a bathing suit top and a pair of shorts. I had like no clothes on. It's pouring rain, freezing. I swear they're just driving around Cancun for like 2 hours, parading me around like, look what we got. We just picked up a white girl. Finally get to the jail, and they ask us a bunch of questions. Now, I'm still continuing to play stupid. They're looking at me like I'm a caged animal. Like, they literally had no idea what to do with me. They're like, what do we do with this girl? Like, what do we do? They separated me and my friend, because I got arrested with the kid that I was working with. They separated us. I didn't see him for a minute. I'm to find out they beat him. Like, when you get arrested here, usually by the Marina, by the National Guard, if you're selling drugs, they usually beat the shit out of you. Luckily, they didn't beat the shit out of me, probably because I'm a gringa. The first thought I remember having when I got into that boat, when we were crossing the water over to Cancun, I had two distinct thoughts. I remember it like it was yesterday. The first thought was, thank God I don't have a dope habit to kick. Like, this jail, this is gonna be cake. This is gonna be a cakewalk being in jail without a dope habit, right? And my second thought was, thank God my parents aren't around to hear this. How devastating to hear that your child, your only daughter, who's supposed to be in Mexico getting her shit together, just got fucking arrested by international police, National Guard, and the Marines. How shameful would that phone call have been? We get to the jail, and it's like a lockup. It wasn't like a big jail. It was just like a lockup. I had no idea where I was. I had no idea what to do. In the back of my brain, I was like, somebody will come pay for me to get out, because like that's what cartels do. They come and they pay for you to get out. But where we were picked up was such a back street and a side road, nobody saw it happen. So I was like, how is anybody going to know that I got arrested? So come to find out, while I was gone, like, people started questioning where I was over on the island. Like, where have you seen Angie? Like, nobody's seen her. The embassy came to see me. They were like, you need a lawyer. I found out that the cops lied on the paperwork and said I had a kilo on me. I mean, they had to have a good excuse to pick up a gringa. And they took all my things. I knew I wasn't going to get my phone back. I wasn't going to get my license back. I wasn't going to get any of my jewelry. Like, I knew I wasn't going to get any of that shit back. Like, I had no way to contact my boss. I had no phone. How the fuck was I going to contact anybody? So thank God, the CEO that was working one of the days that we were there was talking to my friend who was picked up with me. And he let my friend use the computer in the office. And he contacted our boss and told him what happened so that, somebody could come get us. But still, after he used the computer, we still really didn't know what was happening. 2.5 days went by and we didn't know what the fuck was going on. Somebody finally came to visit us. One of the other kids that we worked with came and took the ferry to Cancun, came to the jail to visit us, to tell us that they were going to be back later on or the next day to pay for us to get out. The next night at like 10:30 at night, we finally get released. My boss had to pay 30,000 pesos or more, maybe it was 60,000 pesos to get me out, which is a lot. 30,000 pesos is about $1,800. 60,000 pesos is about $3,000. So that's a fucking lot for your first arrest in Mexico. So I was so grateful that he paid for me to get out, because I'm just a gringo. Like, he could have very easily just left me in jail, like very easily. And I had absolutely no way of contacting anybody else. I would have been lost in the jail system in fucking Cancun in the middle of Mexico. It was like, at the time though, I wasn't even like scared about it. Like, I really wasn't. I was just kind of hoping and just assuming that someone eventually was going to show up and pay for us to get out. As soon as I walked out of the jail, my boss was on the phone with me. Like, how are you? How are you feeling? How is everything? Like, checking on me. Literally what I said to him, oh, just another day in my life. Me getting arrested in Mexico, becoming an international criminal, was literally just another day in my life. I think about that and I'm like, that's so fucking sad. And that's exactly how I thought about it. We got in the ferry, came back to the island. Starting the next day, I picked up like nothing ever happened. I went back to working. I went back to like life as usual. That was in February of 2020. And then in March is when things started to close and like quarantines really started to hit. Really when my spiral and everything started to catch up to me. The fact that my parents died, the fact that I was like trying to grieve, everything hit me all at once quarantine hit, and I couldn't do anything because I couldn't work. There was nothing open. Like nobody, there were no tourists. There were no people to sell drugs to. None of us had a choice. We had to sit at home with ourselves. And that really was the catalyst to me spiraling completely out of control into the seemingly bottomless pit of darkness, the abyss, the despair. I was so fucking close to ending it all, Googling ways to die, Googling ways to end it all. So that was the beginning of the end. It was such a hard time. It really was. I mean, I was in such denial about losing everything. Like it was a really, really bad probate situation when after my dad died. I thought by law, I mean, I'm going to get what's owed to me. 50% of his estate was owed to me by law. I was like, how could that go wrong? I mean, how could I even think that nothing could go wrong after all my experience in and out of jails and courts and with the legal system, knowing how fucked up the legal system really is, me thinking that the probate would go correctly, even though I didn't have a lawyer, was just insanity for me to even think of. Looking back now, I'm actually grateful. I'm so grateful because if I had gotten what was owed to me, which probably would have been, I don't know, 100 grand, I would have most certainly died. I would have literally buried myself with that money if I got it back in 2020 when I was supposed to. Obviously, I wasn't supposed to because it didn't happen. It was such a dark time for me. I found myself in an incredibly abusive situation throughout the entirety of quarantine and then thereafter. I was clean. I had stopped doing dope. My clean date is November 9th, 2019. But I continued to spiral so much out of control from the grief and just everything that was happening in my life because I wasn't changing anything about myself. The only thing I did was stop using, continue to live in chaos. I was getting arrested. I was doing all the things that my junkie life consisted of. Duh, obviously, that shit catches up to you. Looking back, I'm so fucking grateful, even for the, I don't know if you could, can you even say abuse on YouTube? But I'm grateful for it because it gave me the strength to realize that I can be on my own, completely self-sufficient, independent, and I can do anything and everything that I want and that I crave in my life, because anything is truly possible. I have proven that to myself. I never in a million fucking years thought that I'd be sitting here talking about how I'm coming up on 5 years without heroin. That is just like, I know I say this and I'm being redundant, but I cannot express to you how miraculous. But no, it's not even a miracle. It's not a miracle because it's available for anybody who wants it, who is willing to do the work. I finally realized that I had the power to choose. Like I had the power, we all have the power to choose ourselves, to prioritize ourselves. I realized that I was choosing to stay in my misery. I had trained myself to be comfortable in misery for so long that when I finally realized I didn't have to be miserable anymore, it was like mind-blowing to me. When I finally realized that I didn't have to struggle, I didn't have to struggle through life. I thought that life meant that I struggled. Like I thought I had to struggle through life because it had been like that for so fucking long. I'm here telling you that you don't have to struggle through anything. You're not meant to. Nobody deserves to struggle through life, period. I don't care what you've done. I've done some pretty shitty things. I don't care what you've done, where you come from. I don't give a fuck. You don't deserve to struggle. We all deserve happiness and freedom. I had the power to choose myself and to choose differently for myself. Boom. I changed my thinking. I changed my mindset. I started to think differently about everything. I started living in gratitude and practicing gratitude, real, true gratitude. Even if I never had food in the fridge, I didn't have water to drink, I didn't have money, I was counting pennies. Literally, I've had nothing. And I still don't have much. I still literally don't have much. I barely have enough money to pay my rent. But I know that this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, and I know that anything is possible because I've proven that to myself already by completely changing my story. If you're listening to my story thinking, oh, I wish I could, but, oh, it must be nice to be able to do that, but I can't because blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Shut up. The only thing that's holding you back from getting to this place is yourself. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll have the freedom that I have today. That's just it. It's all. That's just it. I can't believe I haven't sipped this for like 30 minutes. I had fully intended on going back to selling. Like I fully intended to. I had no bad feelings. Like I was like, what else am I gonna do? And once I started to truly work on myself, all the things that were a part of my junkie lifestyle, I started to crave better for myself. I started to demand better for myself. I started to realize what was actually possible. All throughout my junkie life and my drug addict career, I used to kind of laugh to myself when people would complain to me about like getting arrested again or losing their job or being homeless, because I'm like, what do you expect? Like, are you surprised? You're not going to get away with it forever. If you're selling, you're going to get arrested eventually. If you're doing drugs, you're going to get arrested eventually. You know, the people who haven't gotten arrested, well, that's a yet. You continue to break the law and you continue to live that lifestyle, it's going to catch up to you. You're going to get caught eventually. In my experience, it never surprised me when any of those things happened because I'm like, you know, I kind of signed up for this. I signed up for it. Trust me, I fucking need the money and I would love to have the money again. I could just as easily, as soon as I hit the little record, I could call my boss and be like, listen, I want to start working and be out just in a couple hours selling again. But I am not willing to accept the consequences anymore. At some point, I became unwilling to accept those consequences because I realized that I am better than that. I deserve better than that. And I know that it's possible to have better than that. And that is a gift of all of this work I've been doing on myself. That is a gift for truly choosing myself. So listen, if you're out there thinking that this recovery thing ain't possible, shut up. Don't tell me this recovery thing isn't possible. Because if I can do it, so can you. I got so many other stories. Like, I don't know what you want me to talk about. I think that's all I have to say. I think I'm going to shut up now. This is too long already. I'm going to shut up. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. We are so trying to get this girl monetized, and my views have plummeted. I mean, like, less than half. So like and subscribe. Okay, that's all. I love you so much. My experience, excuse my congestion. I've been sick for like a week. Everything is so dry. I'm like, the dry, and I gotta fucking I gotta start wearing more sunscreen because my face is like, I'm gonna be 45 in a couple weeks. I know. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. And my skin is mad at me because I'm in the sun all the time. Obviously, I live in Mexico. I love the beach. Anyways,